Because your man is not promising you jack with a hurricane on its way into Georgia in 2 days. And he ain't telling you nothing. He said Puerto Rico got hit, the islands and the Caribbean got hit, and guess what they call it? What's that little creature with this, who's got the color like this here? What's his name? Barney. The hurricane coming. It's called Hurricane Barney. Now what are they trying to do that to kids for? Now Barney comes through and tears up the house, and kids are gonna be, you know, it's much like, it's like your uncles and fathers go hunting for deer on Christmas Eve. And while the child is waiting for the reindeer to come, they might walk into the garage where the uncles and pops have gutted the deer. They open the door and they see Rudolph hanging up there with his guts hanging outside. Trauma for the kids, messed up for life because of that. They can't do nothing about the phenomena of nature. Meanwhile, while you have to ask yourself, why would they waste their time messing with the Nubians, as they like to call it, Nubians? Why would they be messing with the Nubians at this close proximity to destruction? I mean, and I'm not going for the, oh boy, he's a doomsday preacher. You don't have to believe, I do not care if you don't believe this stuff getting made. I don't care if you don't believe the meteorites are coming. Your government knows it. You know what? This week they had on the news that they figured out a way to regrow the bone. And they figured out a way to reanimate tissue. No, that's on the news. We have, we stay in there. Did anybody hear about it? Well, we did. Check it, go on your computer. Or people of African descent, keloid, is because there was a time where we were able to regrow our limbs as gods. They thought I was crazy. They said, that nigga is nuts. Ain't nowhere in the world where you have their arm cut off and it regrow. Well, now the scientists are saying they can regrow limbs. They can, your bone can be cut off here, and they have a way now where that bone will go back and that flesh can grow back. Well, they grew an ear on a rat, and y'all saw that on television. Well, of course, they could grow your finger back. What does that mean? It means one thing, that the scientific community is being exposed to things they never was exposed to before. Whole new sciences.
Carson is ready to have an operation to repair his ear. He may be in line for a remarkable new technology being developed here at the University of Massachusetts. A technology that won't just fashion him an ear from existing tissue, but one that through tissue engineering will actually grow him a new one.
This is an example of growing an ear in the shape of a human ear on a rabbit ear. So it's actually an ear grown on an ear.
That's just one of the wonders Dr. Charles Vacanti of the UMass Medical Center has created. His most memorable to date is this now famous mouse with a human-shaped ear growing on its back. The ear was made from cow cartilage, which grows much more easily than human tissue. But Vacanti has since been able to grow ears made of human cartilage in mice.
I think we're very, very close. I suspect probably less than 2 years, probably within a year of doing the same thing in a human. For example, if this was Carson's ear, we would first make a mold of his ear.
To engineer tissue, Vacanti first molds a biodegradable scaffold in the shape of the body part, then covers it with the appropriate cells. As the cells grow, the scaffold melts away, leaving what just a few years ago would have seemed impossible.
As a medical advance, I suspect that tissue engineering will be as significant as antibiotics.
It's not just ears Vacanti is creating, but other structures like a windpipe and hard-to-repair bone. He's also found a way to make nerve cells divide and grow, a potential treatment for brain and spinal cord injuries. Other scientists are growing organ tissue, and Vacanti foresees a day when injured or ill people will have replacement parts grown for them.
For example, you have liver failure. Instead of having to wait until a donor liver is available, I believe you'll be able to engineer a liver of your own cells.
Grow your own liver.
Grow your own liver.
Something else we mentioned, they recently mentioned, I don't know if y'all know, I hope y'all did. They talked about children, and the father's only 10% of the child now, and the mother's 90%. What? Do you know that? Well, yeah. See, here's what happened. And this is going to get into your doctrine in a way where if you really get into it, you go, oh man, if you don't know the doctrine, this might not catch you. The woman's body, mitochondria DNA, which predates man by thousands of years, when woman was God, woman's body has a defense mechanism in it. Do we agree? Yes. Like a man's body. No, somebody say, well, if you take alien blood from anybody, I'll make it clear, and inject it into a woman, in 6 to 8 weeks, her blood will overthrow that alien blood. That's why they have to be very careful with transfusions that they get people who have the same type of blood, because your body will reject it. Now, transplanting organs has proven that to be a fact, that if they give you someone else's heart, the problem is always what? Rejection. Why does it reject it? Because your body has a built-in mechanism for it to defend itself against alien properties of all kinds. And even in the blood, ask anybody about blood. If you inject blood, if you have to get a transfusion, your body will overthrow that blood in 6 to 8 weeks, or that blood, or it will eventually kill you. If they add a liver to your liver, they have a certain amount of time. They must keep your body constantly filled up with, what do they call it? No, antibiotics. Thanks. I'm trying to get a simple for everybody. Is the way we use not antibiotics. It goes. You have a body that attacks everything. Your immune system. Thank you. They got to keep injecting you with serums to keep your immune system extremely high. They right now say if you have cancer and you have a very high immune system, then you can of course take radiation, chemotherapy. But if you don't, it'll kill you. That's understood. Well, that's because it's alien to the body. You with me so far? All right. So now, once we establish the immune system and keeping the immune system, so therefore any alien organs would be able to survive for a period of time, but they have not succeeded yet with any transplants.
Right here in your lower abdomen.
This is an intriguing thought to patients suffering from kidney failure, like Kate Sullivan. Faced with a lifetime of dialysis, she recently had to ask someone close to her to make a difficult decision.
My sister and I are super close, and I couldn't think of anybody else that would go through the kind of surgery that it is. I mean, it's not simple, and there's a lot of pain involved and a lot of healing. And I don't think you can just ask anybody to do that.
As soon as I found out that she needed a kidney and that a living related donor would be the best one, I said that she could have mine.
The transplant was a success, and a few months later, Kate was in excellent health and well on her way to a full recovery. But Kate must still take 29 pills every day to stop her body from rejecting her sister's kidney. A kidney from her clone would be a perfect match.
If I needed a kidney and I could get one from a clone, I would definitely do it. Because the most important thing would be that you wouldn't have to take the anti-rejection medicine. Because I see what my sister's gone through, and I think that's the hardest thing about the kidney operation, is that she has to take so much medication.
And since Kate's new kidney may only last for 10 to 20 years, she may have to go through the transplant process again. At that time, human cloning may be an option.
It has always been rejected. No one has succeeded. They extended the period of time, you know, but it doesn't last forever. Eventually, the alien organ dies. All right, so then, if a man and a woman is together, sexually that is, when a man releases semen into the woman, it's what? Alien. It's alien to her. What is the first thing her body thinks to do? To attack it. But they found out, scientists, that there's a certain part of the brain that triggers and it releases a serum that creates an egg inside the womb of the mother. It's an egg or a bag, a pouch. You follow that? And the baby or the fetal is in this bag. And it's kept in a lubricant of water that is producing the hormones, so that it is actually fighting against her invading the baby and killing it. When the brain does not trigger this properly, you hear me? And it doesn't send enough of these defense mechanisms, there's a miscarriage. Right? If too many of these things get in the bloodstream and into the baby, when the baby is born, within 6 to 8 weeks, there's cradle death. It still attacks the baby. They'll tell you they don't know what cradle death is, because they don't know. But it's a scientific fact. So now, what actually happens is, the baby in the womb of the human female as a mammal is living in a sack of water. Has anybody here been raised on a farm? Good. I mean, you see a hen lay an egg, right? Does it come out hard or soft? A lot of city folk might not know that. No, not trying to be funny, they don't. When a hen lays an egg, it's soft. You follow? And then when it hits the air, it begins to harden. The same thing happens with the placenta of the woman. When they first remove it from the woman, it's soft. And just in a couple of minutes, it starts to harden up, it clots. Where am I reaching at? I'm reaching at the fact that women have an egg inside of them. That they really give birth to an egg. But unlike the chickadee, it cracks the shell on the outside of the body. You call it my water breaking. And the egg breaks inside and the baby comes forth. And sometimes they'll say the egg collapsed and put a thin veil over the baby's face. And let's say the medieval doctors who didn't quite understand what that meant said that baby was born with a seventh veil. Had a veil over his face. That's a mystical baby. He's going to be psychic or clairvoyant or something, and that passed all the way down to grandma, saying seventh kid of a seventh kid has a seventh veil on the face. All that was the shell of the egg collapsing. Got your attention, don't it? Well, science is very interesting. I've always told y'all for years, study science. Because once you master science, religion looks funny. You know what I mean? It looks real cute, but it's a nice institution. People need it. People need it. Keeps them out of trouble. But it has nothing to do with this. What are we saying here? We're saying that human beings are a form of mammal that has an egg inside, and the baby is developed in a liquid substance. So thus the baby is breathing with gills and does not inherit its lungs until it comes, and sometimes in the hospital they have to pump water out of the baby's lungs, showing that just like the movie, what's it called? The Abyss, that the lungs were full of water until it. So there's a transformation or a metamorphosis from a sea creature with gills to a land creature with lungs within that period. You follow? The frightening part about it is that when we go back to religious doctrine, especially Western world religious doctrine and Middle Eastern religious doctrine, such as Islam and Christianity, we get this character called the devil who becomes a serpent, a snake. Now, of course, in our doctrine, we've always had a problem with a talking snake in the garden, so it didn't ever sit with us that a snake was holding a conversation with Eve. Didn't make sense to us, and that was our way of asking them to explain it. We understood he was a Drago. We understood Drago and Dragon is in the Bible as Tainini. We understood that, right? But they didn't. So it was more fun to say, well, tell us how a snake could talk, who they're calling the devil in Genesis chapter 3, who travels all the way to Revelations as the dragon. But this being called the devil was identified with a serpent. When they say Leviathan, again, they give it, if you look it up in the Bible, they say, a big sea creature. Tanin, a walking dragon. Right on the temples of Babylon, they used to have the drawing of a snake with legs. All right? Then scientists admitted that the original snake had hips. We've shown that in our books. If the original snake had hip bones, then it had legs. Then, like the Bible will now, on your belly shall you go, unless the scientists knew that before and wrote that after. On your belly shall you go in the days of your life, became, so the snake once walked around on 4 with a snake body and dropped down. Well, that's the Komodo dragon. That's why a whole bunch of kids are attracted to having lizards and, what's the other one they have in their houses? Iguanas, and they're attracted to this creature. Why people wrap snakes around them and keep snakes and stuff as pets and feed their snake chickens, little chickadees, like it's okay, and watch them consume it. There's some parental tie to the lizard and the monkey to make the man. The monkey being the mammal that uses its lungs, and the lizard being the reptilian that uses its gills and lays eggs. Now, some reptilians lay eggs on land, some reptilians lay eggs in sea, and some reptilians keep the eggs inside their body and deliver them just like a human being does after the fetal has reached its growth stage. You hear me? What is coming into reality is that when we go back to ancient Tamara, the original name of Egypt, and we look into our own ancestors, when they speak about the birth of the world, they speak about the primordial egg. You heard of that? Western world stole it and called it the goose that laid the golden egg. The goose that lays the golden egg is a goose that lays the sun, because the sun has always been a symbol of gold. And they also stole it and came up with the stork that delivers the baby. Now let's combine the two. The goose that lays the golden egg and the stork that delivers the baby says that children are coming from a bird. We have three powerful birds in ancient Tamara: the falcon, the hawk, and the buzzard. Those are the three most powerful birds. The reason why they call them the most powerful birds is because Ra, Amun, and Horus all shared symbols throughout the writings in hieroglyphics where they were at one or other time depicted as one of those birds, all of those birds. The wise bird, of course, was the owl. But what separated the owl from the other three birds is that he's the only bird with his eyes in the front of his face like a human. No other bird on the planet has his eyes in the front of his face, and he's also a nocturnal hunter like humans. You say, what? Well, see, humans see better in the dark than they do in the light. And this is why when they walk into a dark room, for the first couple of minutes they can't see, and after a few seconds things start coming to shape and form. We really see better in the dark than we do in the light, but we've been told, cut on the light to see our way around. Because the people who govern us and create the laws don't see well in the dark. So they gotta lighten everything up. You hear me? But way back then, they said that Ra, the sun deity, came from Noon. Noon, the Muslims even stole it and put it in the Quran as an initial letter, Noon. And they say Noon represents the what? The whale that Jonah was in. It's also in the Hebraic teachings too. Noon, the whale that Jonah was in. You see that? Man inside of a fish, or man in fish. Now the definition given in ancient Tamara for the man in the fish, or the human reptilian, was apapi, or papa. What is that? Father. That's the Pope. He wears a fish-shaped hat and identifies with an ancient Babylonian deity called Dagon, which identifies with an ancient Malian fleet of gods that came from heaven, and the tribe is called the Dogon, and the beings that came to them were called the Namus, and they were supposed to, according to Dogon writings, hear me? Roam at night only and go into the sea during the day. So they lived in the sea. Well, then we go to Sudan and we find that they say beneath the Nile there are beings that live there, Dineir. You understand? And these, they say, in their traditions, these beings come out at night to teach human beings and stay in the water by day. It's like at night you instinctively say, it's nighttime, I'm getting ready to go to bed, I must take a bath and get into water. You get up in the morning and say, well, I'm getting ready to face the world, I gotta go take a, boy, my skin is dry, I must moisture it, otherwise what will happen? My scales will start to show. We call it rashiness and ashiness. But what we're really saying is, if I don't keep the outer surface of my skin moist, I will dehydrate and scale off and can scrape off dead skin like any other reptilian. Oh yeah. Certain human beings, jawbones are constructed where their front teeth and their bottom teeth don't touch. Their back two teeth connect. Oh, a lot of people, they have round, okay, she's honest, I got them. They don't touch. They have a round, their mouth is round. You ever see that? Because those other mammals and stuff chew their cud. So they constantly chew their food over and over with their back teeth, swallow it into one stomach or the other, and then regurgitate it again and chew it again, like cows and stuff called chewing their cud. You see? But for some reason, certain of us human beings, if we all come from one strain, certain of us have the mouth of a fish. We have this obsession that it is romantic to make love near the water on the beach. It is natural to go into the water to bathe before we make love. You follow? We drink water all day. Otherwise we will Doctors say you better keep drinking in liquids. If you took a fish and put it in a container, the only way you can keep that fish alive if you don't put it back in water is to do what? Keep it wet. Y'all hear me? So in our ancient day, in our time, I don't know what to do with y'all. Back in ancient Egypt, in ancient Sumeria, they say the same thing. A fish man came out of the Tigris Euphrates and taught the Sumerians. Now the Anutu is a name they have before they get to Gi or Ki. When they get to Gi or Ki, Anutu changes into Anunnaki. And that's Anu, Na, and Gi or Ki, or one of the names for the planet Earth. Ancient Egyptian or Tamara name for the planet Earth was Tanin. Tanin. Tanin is in your Bible where they have serpent. Not in Genesis chapter 3, they purposely selected another word, Nachash. And they selected that word Nachash because it means divination in Hebrew or to whisper. And of course the Muslims who steal everything from the Jews brought it over into the Quran and Simple Nas and call it Khanas. Nachash, Khanas. And in the Quran it's still written up as the whispering devil. You hear me? So we have a tie-in to people coming out the water and teaching us, whether it was in Mali at the Dogon, which also would cover Senegal and Morocco and Mauritania, all the Moorish places, because all of that was one at one time. Then we have El Ghor, which is where Arabia and all that area was, and they have in their writings that fish people who are half human, half fish in some form of fashion, came out and taught them. And then we go into Egypt, and we have the primordial egg coming up out floating along the sea, and coming out of the water was Ra, right? And from Ra, of course, Atum gave birth to that Ra principle. Then we have those three moods of the Ray, because it really should be Ray, not Ra. And those three moods of the Ray was Atum, Atun, and Amun. And Atun was also referred to as simply Tun. He was Tun in the morning, and Atun in the morning and Tun in the evening, where apparently, or as they say, the sun sets, where set, or the setting of the sun comes in, where they travel the darkness through the shadow and come back around again each morning for the sun to come back. But still, it meant going beneath the sea. They didn't look at the sun in ancient Egypt as going beneath the land. They saw it as going beneath the sea, and they would go down in the morning at the sea, and they'd wait for the sun to come over. And they say, God walked the water up to them. This was an ancient sun worship custom. And what they were looking at is the sun apparently to come over the horizon, and as it traveled the water, they stood on the dry land near the beach in the morning, their hands raised up, and they watched it come up, and they did this with it until the sun bathed them in the warmth and the vitality, and they knew that was the rays that would grow their food, and they gave thanks at that moment. That was Babylonian, Egyptian, African, Mayan, Aztecian, Eskimo, everybody except the Christian. And of course, the Christian regurgitated and gave birth to Muslims. Which means they took portions of Christianity and Judaism and fabricated their own religion. All right, called Islam. But even it is based on the sun. And Christianity is based on the sun. It's just that they made the sun a man and called him. The Egyptians made the sun, Re, a man, and called him Amun. So he became Amun Re, Lord Jesus Christ. The Hindus did the same thing. The Dogon did the same thing. They all prayed to the sun. You follow? And the sun is the most deadly thing that a reptilian can get caught in, because the sun will. So it was hell to get caught in the sun. So they created from the Greek word Helios, from where the Egyptians or the Greeks called the Egyptian city Heliopolis, Helios, hell. And told that people, one time no one thought hell was down, they thought hell was up. They thought as you go toward the sun, or that the sun was coming down to earth to burn everybody. That's in the Bible. Coming down to earth to burn you up. In fact, they say in the Bible, the Lord will no longer destroy the world by water, but moreover by fire. They're thinking of the fire burning the whole world up. The only beings that would be afraid of the sun would be beings that are afraid of dehydration, or the people who could not dive back into the water away from the sun until it passes its 3 stages. And only people that understood sun worship and Atun, and Amun would know the stages. You see? So Christianity set it up where, to look like they know, they worship on Sunday. You see? And they put a halo, or halo, Helios, a ring of gold around Christ's head, which is the iris of the god's ray of Egypt, a circular. And so the Greeks knew his name was Asatru, so they called him Osiris. And put the big O there, because if you look in any science book under the symbol of the sun, you get a big cipher, or O. You hear that? And Lu meant primitive. Lu cipher meant primitive cipher. Yeah? Lucifer became the primitive cipher, or the bright morning star, which is the sun. So Christ was called the early morning star, and then in Isaiah, Lucifer is called the bright morning star. both representing the sun disk. You hear me? So there is a relationship between mortals here, men, women, and reptilians. That's why if you hold up your hand and look at it, it's yours, you can do it. Stretch your fingers as far as you can apart, and now turn over and look back, and look between here, and you'll see you once had webs. You may not like the way it looks, but if you have skin that must stay moist, if you have the ability to reanimate limbs, you understand? If you have webs and scales and need water, and then we'll take a hen's egg and eat it soft scrambled, or write out the egg, mix it up for vitality. Do you know that snakes hunt down other snake eggs and turtle eggs, they swallow them, and then they spit out the shell? So when you're having that sunny side egg, and your wife say, that's slimy looking, why are you eating that? That slimy egg that you're eating is an identification with your reptilian nature. That obsession with swimming pools and beaches and salt water, the moment you jump into salt water, it goes right into your head and clears it up. Say, man, I had a cold before I dived in here. All the dust and mucus that was in the air just went out as soon as I got in the salt water. Why? Why are you so comfortable in salt water? Why is it? Now listen, if I took salt and threw it in your face, what would happen? What would it do to your eyes? So how come you can open your eyes in the salt water in the beach? And the salt that you get is from the salt water in the beach. Why is it that once you get back under the water, your body readjusts immediately, and your nerves in your eyes do not pick up the salt as something that's attacking it, but you're able to, you ever did it? Why is it? Because you'll have the ability to readapt to your original environment. Because if me and you went to the beach right now and dived under the water, we could open our eyes. And if I went right to the house and got sea salt and threw it in your eyes, you'd have a fit. So what happens is, when you're standing on dry land, your body calibrates where you are and adjusts itself for where you are. And when you dive in the water, the moment it hits the water, your body has to recalibrate itself and adjust it to where you are. You follow? Just that quick. So there are reptilians, like the alligator and the crocodile, who can come out of the water and stay on dry land for a while, longer than they should. And then, while breathing air, go back in, especially hippopotamus, why hippopotamus was the highest god in Egypt, then go back in under the water and breathe underwater, hippopotamus. Or the link to you, which I'm going towards, the whale, which they also proved was on land before it got into the water, still has its lungs, and your ancestor, the dolphin, who transported your seed here to this planet to be germinated and grown here. Dolphins are your ancestors. That is, you have a relationship to the dolphin. You know? You can go to SeaWorld and Disney World and watch a whole bunch of tamers going tweet, 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 tweet. The dolphin won't come nowhere near them. You walk over there and make one sound like a dolphin, and they'll come look up at you and look to see if you know. And if you don't know, they'll just go on about their business. As they see you know, they'll stick their head up. You can pat them, and they'll go back and work. So much for your relationship to the reptilians or the sea creatures. Let's get into other subjects. Go ahead. Unless that you got hooked and you want to go ahead. Well, you better here, right.
Missed that part about the
90% of the child, the part he said he missed, 90% of a child between a male and a female is the female, because all of the components to make up the child is coming from her. The man is in distress. The semen is in distress from the moment it gets in the body, because the woman's natural antibodies are going after it to destroy it, because it's something alien, until his brain.
Pregnant,
right.
Because the baby takes from her immune system to protect themselves against, you know,
The baby
things.
to protect his if the baby has to trigger something in the brain, so otherwise the mother will kill the baby. This extends out of the womb and it's called postpartum, where women can flicker and beat their baby to death with a spoon or throw it out the window or put it in an oven, and they do all kind of things, and the doctors have written that off as a mental defect. But accept it. Yes.
So is it a wise thing to have sex while you're pregnant, or is that, possess your male sperm?
Well, at least I want to all right up to the 6th month, at least. After the 6th month, you should stop having sex relationships and care more about training your body and exercising and preparing to yield a basketball, as opposed to stimulate for pleasure, because that's your body. Your body does have to be prepared for that. But if during that period of time the man ejaculates in the woman, semen ain't going anywhere anyway, because everything closed up. Huh?
It being dangerous as far as the woman already being pregnant and having that fetus inside the womb. Is it a bad thing to have the sperm being injected into the woman, being is that the female would attack it anyway?
No, I'm saying because the brain is now, as soon as she became pregnant, the brain produced the serum to protect it, so it won't give any harm at all. Brother, way up there. What happened is, dolphins are beings from the Sirius star. Sirius, they call it. Sirius star. And the Neturu, which is the Egyptian name for the Anunnaki, used them to put the seed of human beings in the dolphin in order to transport it from one place to the other. They do that now in laboratories where they'll take the egg of one animal and inject it into another animal in order to fly it from one laboratory to the other side, and then take it out and then inseminate it inside of an egg for development. When they were bringing the, let's say, the fish man from Sirius, which was a predominantly water planet, to Earth, they did it in a sea creature called a dolphin, which is is a little different than he looks today. He's also evoluted, and then injected it here in the monkey, right? Because you have two different seeds here. You have the gibbon, which goes into the chimpanzee, and then you have the other one who went to the baboon and the jackal. From the baboon, I don't want to go that far. I want to go to the baboon and the orangutan, which is the Caucasian side of the monkey, and then you have the gibbon, which is the working thumb. That's why we have more coordination than they do. We're much more agile than them, because the monkey that's in our genes is called a gibbon, and he has his hand works, he can grasp things, whereas the orangutan can't grasp nothing unless he holds it like this. He doesn't have a working thumb. His thumb is too far down. This is why a lot of tamahu, if you look at their toes are extremely long, and sometimes the first toe is real short, the next 3 is like all 3 the same size. Their hand structures is a lot different now, and they literally, understand the racist statement, this is science, this is fact, and they literally move different than we do, bodily wise. They don't know how we move the way we do, how agile or colorful as their term for it is. But they use those scientists, those gods, those Neturu, those Anutu, the Namus, use the dolphin to transport the gene to Earth from Sirius, and then the laboratories, Shimti, on Mars, which they found the laboratories on Mars in a place called Sidonia, and they're trying to cover it up, but it's too late. Everybody knows the truth now. There's life on Mars, and then they transport it here to Earth. And they use these other biological entities, or some biological, some of them are mechanical, which called grays, which they made from mammals on this planet. And they like made a Frankenstein. The whole concept of the Frankenstein movies that they show you is when the Anunnaki were making grays. And they use these grays if I were to go into environments that they, who will have the same anatomy like you, and their planet, Ceres, had the same type of atmosphere as yours, which is another name for risk, right? They had to use beings that could go into other planets like Mars, where they couldn't survive on that. And then those beings went there and built spheres. We discussed this the other day. They'll call it, they'll say that planet Earth is a biosphere. And it's not a biosphere, because bio means two. And sphere is any specific place where life or matter exists. So we have the ability to live under the ground. We have the ability to live in water. We have the ability to live in air within the Earth's atmosphere. And then we have the ability to live now with space stations outside. So we don't have a biosphere, we have a quadrosphere. And if they come and create a dome structure and move people in it, now we got a what? It's going into a, what's a fifth? Now it becomes a quixosphere. But they'll say we have a biosphere. We're living in several different atmospheres on the planet Earth at the same time, and several different life forms are living together in each of these spheres, but only one or two of them are capable of living beneath water in a space station. Like if I fly from here to, let's say, Asia, I may spend 17 hours in a plane. You know what I'm saying? As long as I stay in any environment more than 8 hours, I've altered the natural course of things, which means I should spend 8 hours sleeping, 8 hours eating, and 8 hours digesting and dissipating. That's the 3/8 that make up the 24 hours in a human being. If I spend 17 hours in the air, I get jet lag, my body has to go through change, I have to readjust, I have to be recalibrated when I get my feet on the ground. It's the same thing if you go swimming and you mess around in water too long, when you get on the ground, when you get back on the ground, your body feels real strange. That strange feeling is your body touching the ground, dealing with levity, gravity, density, moist, and it's recalibrating itself. And then a couple of minutes after that, you feel normal again. You understand? You okay now?
Who am I? What am I to you? I am called in tone, yen, nor silhouette when baru, yen.
Is it true that the woman possesses a form of triple darkness in the womb?
Well, Minister Louis Farrakhan alluded to that because Honorable Elijah Muhammad alluded to triple darkness and never explained it. And oftentimes, once the messenger was gone, and Farrakhan wasn't really close enough to him to have gotten the true message from the messenger because he wasn't really under him. If our now ministers to test him will put him on the spot and ask him, what is triple darkness? No, he don't know. Whereas Word D. Muhammad, his son, did know what triple darkness meant. But now that he has shifted doctrines from Nation of Islam to Sunni Muslim Islam, he's not saying, you know what? So what they're talking about in the womb of a woman being triple darkness is they're talking about when the sperm and the ovum comes together, nobody sees it. When the eggs are being produced in the ovum, nobody sees it. You follow that? And when the baby is finished making its total tumble in the womb and starts its journey outward, nobody sees it. So these three major stages are all done in darkness. And that's what they were alluding to in the Nation of Islam as triple darkness. Go ahead.
You spoke about the law earlier. Would it be good for a Milwaukee to get a legal education outside of Georgia and it's supposed to another state like Alabama?
Definitely. I mean, I don't know what or who is telling anybody whatever they are. I encourage all the Wapians to get an education and get the best education we can get for what we need. What's sad is the day and time we're in. That's the frightening part. We're so near. That's a lot of noise, right? Sounding like a motorcycle club. We're so near to these calamities that not me, Amanubi Akapa is telling y'all about, who's predicting. Not me, but scientists, astronomers are telling people about meteorite showers coming and a large meteorite, and people are acting like there's nothing going on. They're telling them about the ice caps melting. They're telling them about the warming, global warming and the greenhouse effect, and then they're even telling them about the computer crash in 16 months. And the people are acting like nothing's going to happen. Well, what's going to happen is that if they are not able to change the number system in the computer between now and 16 months, all electricity is going to shut down. The pumps are going to shut down. The hospitals are going to shut down. Everything that works by computers. The planes will have to stop flying. That means that diseases are going to get rampant. And what they're doing also because of the HARP project, I don't want to keep you out there too long, right? Because of the HARP project, as I mentioned last week, they are now altering the climate to make this a tropical environment so that they can culture more bacteria. Because they have already figured out, and there's a scientist, and I've emailed it, I hope you all can confirm it, scientists from South Africa who admitted that they had put together teams of scientists who were studying the human body for black people only and what level bacteria attacks us where it don't attack them, and that they had succeeded in making certain types of bacteria to go into foods that we like. And in the article in the internet, they actually list the kind of foods and they know that we like. And that these bacteria has been put in there and it's already inside our body. It may sound crazy, but go, because I know one time you don't believe me, check it out. Go ask him. Go look in the computer. They are revealing right now about these diseases that are already in your body. The reason why we don't know it is because we're all sick. We're all having this metal taste in our mouth. We're all having this nasal drip. We're all getting these repeated headaches all the time. This happens to everybody. We get this time where we just don't want to eat the foods that we like. We're getting these flashes of nausea. And then a woman says, I think I'm pregnant, find out she ain't pregnant. Well, they've already put the bacteria in the air, not just in the water. They know the food you like. They know the restaurants you frequent. They know your style. They gave it to your kids in school. They gave it to your relatives in the hospitals. They gave it to your brothers and sisters in the military. We found out that they don't eat what we eat. All you have to do is spend some time with a Caucasian family and you'll find they don't eat the same things you eat. They don't drink the same liquids you drink. You hear me? They have all that stuff prepared to break you down because you're at a point in time where you're metamorphosizing from a mortal into a god. That sounds crazy because of what they did to your mind with the fanatical monotheistic beliefs. And the word monotheistic comes from an ancient Greek god called monos, of sarcasm and pain. Look it up. Monotheos means sarcastic, painful theories. And that's what it's based on. If you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell. If you ain't a Baptist and get dumped in some water reptilian for salvation, you going to hell. If you ain't a Muslim and say, La ilaha illallah, Allah going to send you to hell until you ask him, where is hell? Or simply, what and where is hell? Exactly where is it, Mr. Muslim man? Exactly where is it? Well, it's down. No, it ain't down here. Scientists that went straight through the planet. No, it ain't down there. Where else? Where is heaven? Up there. How far? They say heaven is further than the furthest star. And one of the nearest stars are millions of light years away. But see, when they talk like that, we don't have a clue. We stop there because we don't like math. Millions of light years. Just say, what is a light year? The distance light can travel in a year. How fast does light travel? 186,000 what? And based on the year of 265, you're 5 trillion miles away. And now the nearest star is 100 million light years away. So you know how long it would get to heaven? Jesus is still on his way. Scientifically, he's not even halfway there. You understand? You may not like the way that sounds, but when they speak of this as the New Age, and they try to make belonging to New Age religions, as they call it, something cultish, no. New Age means, like Jesus said, it's time for a new age, a new era, new information. Reverend, come down off the pulpit, because you don't know what you're talking about. Time for you to move out the way.